Today we're going to be covering a what if I've seen floating around in Dragon Ball community, which is, what if Tarble stayed on Earth? So if you guys haven't seen Yo Son Goku, in that movie it is revealed that Vegeta has a younger brother, Tarble. Tarble basically didn't do much in that movie, but he was there to warn the Z fighters about Avo and Kato. After their defeat, he just left out with his wife, and we only got small mentions of him in Battle of Gods and Broly. In this what if, however, we're going to say that Tarble decides to stay on Earth with his wife. Now why would he do this? Mainly because his brother is a good person now, and he seemed to enjoy hanging with the Z Warriors, and if his wife is okay with it, then I'm sure he'd stay. Of course, Vegeta's a much nicer person than the Vegeta Tarble knew, but Vegeta is still very training heavy, and would want his brother to train himself up some more, so he can defend himself against more enemies like Avo and Kato. Vegeta would most likely take Tarble to train in the gravity chamber with him, and I'm sure his main goal right off the bat would be to try to get Tarble to become a Super Saiyan, and I believe that he would be able to do this pretty quickly after just a few months. Vegeta was able to get Kaba to transform extremely fast just by threatening to blow up his planet, and maybe Vegeta really pushed him and maybe threatened to kill his wife or something, which I think would allow Tarble to transform. His wife, Gyr, or however you pronounce that, would probably have trouble fitting in on Earth, but she's certainly not the strangest being on Earth, and I believe after some time she would get used to it pretty fast. Around a few months later, Beerus would wake up and head to Earth, and this really wouldn't change much besides Tarble being an extra punching bag for the God of Destruction. When it's time for the God Ritual, with Tarble around, they would have just enough Saiyans, so there isn't a reason for Videl to reveal that she's pregnant just yet. The rest of Battle of Gods would play out the same, with Goku still getting the God form and battling Beerus, but it's the aftermath which is interesting. When it's time for Vegeta to go to Beerus' planet, he would most likely want to take his brother with him, and I don't think Tarble would refuse. As long as he is able to bring Gyr with him so they're not apart for too long, I don't see any reason why Whis wouldn't want to take Tarble along. So the Saiyan brothers would train with Whis for a few months, and after training they would both get access to God Ki, but Vegeta would be the only one to access Super Saiyan God, since Tarble is still too weak to be able to handle its power at this point in the story. When Goku shows up, the training is even more intense, and Tarble is extremely discouraged when Goku and Vegeta are able to unlock Blue, and he mopes about instead of training harder, which annoys Vegeta greatly. This is around a time when the three Saiyans would get the call that Frieza has returned to Earth, and they are going to need their help. Tarble is extremely terrified by the fact that Frieza has been brought back, and is very hesitant to go and put himself and his wife in danger. So he says he'll just stay behind with Whis. Vegeta of course would ridicule him for being so afraid and clearly displays his disappointment, but it isn't the time to argue, so he and Goku teleport to Earth without Tarble. Whis has a discussion with Tarble on how if he's so afraid then he'll never be able to unlock Super Saiyan God, since he isn't fully committed to the idea of fighting anyhow and only wants to impress his brother. If he just believed in his own abilities and stopped holding back, he might one day be able to unlock his Super Saiyan God ability. Whis' words do hit Tarble and how he needs to stop being so afraid and man up, so he swallows down his fear and goes off with Beerus and Whis to Earth. When they arrive, Blue Goku is currently fighting off Golden Frieza, and Tarble is very confused since Frieza didn't look like this the last time he saw him, but he easily comes to the conclusion that he is transformed, just like the Saiyans do. Goku still is beat as normal, and Vegeta steps in to deal with Frieza, but this time, there's a huge change. Frieza laughs to himself right before Vegeta destroys him, and unleashes enough energy to be able to destroy the Earth. Luckily though, Tarble notices this, and the realization that Frieza is going to kill them all, including his brother and wife, enrages him, and he explodes in a red light and launches himself towards Frieza and completely erases him with a Gallic gun before the planet explodes, saving Earth. Vegeta and the others are extremely impressed with Tarble, and Whis just smiles knowing that this was the trigger that Tarble needed, and for the most part, his fears have been conquered. The three Saiyans return to train with Whis when Champa arrives and suggests the idea for the Universe 6 vs Universe 7 tournament. The first three choices for the team is easy: Goku, Vegeta, and Tarble. The next pick would obviously be Gohan, but he still has to attend his conference as normal, so he's out. The next two picks though are Piccolo and Buu, as in canon. I don't think Beerus would want to recruit Monaka, since the three Saiyans already have proper enough motivation, so Monaka isn't needed here. The three go inside the hyperbolic time chamber, and yes, there is enough food for only 2 people in the time chamber, but if they bring extra food, the three Saiyans would be able to stay inside for about 3 years. During these 3 years, Tarble is able to access Super Saiyan Blue as well, and everybody would be much stronger due to 3 Super Saiyan Blues training together. When they arrive at the tournament, Buu fails the exam and isn't able to enter, but the first match is Tarble vs Botamo. And even though Tarble can't injure him, he does have the idea to throw him out, which works. Frost comes in next, and Tarble begins to get some PTSD of Frieza and doesn't hold back at all, and knocks Frost out before he can poison him. Vegeta comes out next, and of course Tarble isn't able to defeat him easily. Even when he becomes blue it's not enough, so he has a good idea and completely obliterates the ring with a final flash, winning his match. Once the ring is restored, Tarble fights with Kaba, and the two have a very nice fight since they remind themselves of each other, and even though Tarble is very tired from the previous fights, he's able to use his Super Saiyan form to take Kaba out. And unfortunately, Kaba doesn't learn Super Saiyan in this scenario, which will come back to bite Universe 6 later on. Hit comes in, and by this point Tarble is exhausted, so he isn't a challenge at all, and gets knocked out easily. Vegeta comes in and is able to do a little bit better than he does in canon, but it's still not enough for Hit, and Vegeta is knocked out. Piccolo goes next, and surprisingly, he is able to find out that Hit is time skipping, and he does the same thing that Goku does in canon by predicting Hit's movements, but Piccolo is nowhere near the level of Hit, and he too is eliminated. Goku is the last member of Universe 7 and fights Hit, which starts off a lot easier for Goku since he already knows about the time skipping. Their fight then goes on relatively normal, except this time Goku doesn't quit the match since he's the last member and there is nobody else. But since Goku is able to get the advantage much earlier, I'll say he is able to defeat Hit this time, which ends the tournament. After the wish on the Super Dragon Balls is made, Vegeta commends Tarble for being the MVP and eliminating the most people, which boosts Tarble's ego greatly. Now we move on to the Goku Black arc, and yes, Zamasu still chooses Goku's body since Goku was the strongest during the Universe 6 tournament, so there was no reason to take anybody else's. But we'll continue that arc in the next episode though, and I hope to see you guys there for it. So, till we meet again guys, see you later!